this stand for the neighborhood party.
Right on. Welcome to Thoughts Off the Stem. I'm Justin Barone, and today we switched it up. We're smoking Terra Labs Cherry AK-47 live resin in the Stooning glass. We're gonna smoke the El Blunto Centrado out of the 4-pack. They're 0.7s, I think. Yeah, 0.7s for blunts. They're really nice. They're really smooth. They are 25.4%. I believe they're an indica. Although on my last couple reviews, I've been wrong before I checked the package, so who knows. Yeah, and the Cherry AK. The Cherry AK is, let's see here. What is it? 85.8% THC. It's a live resin. And does it tell me the terps on here? I don't know if it does. It doesn't seem to. Total THC, total CBD. Yeah, it doesn't tell you what the terps are, but it's tasty. And Cherry AK itself is just a really nice strain. It's really good. Sometimes I do too much, I think, before I'm trying to talk about certain shit. I also did just take 3 shots of that Stooning glass, so like, it's all just setting in now. I want to talk about corporate greed and the expectations of corporations. And I think that they've gotten a little bit out of hand with their level of, greed, essentially. And I think the most notable industry that you see it in is obviously oil, but the weed industry. I mean, it's kind of fucked up. The level of corporate greed in our society today is astronomical. And even though I don't expect the corporation, a business entity to really worry about their people and how they function and how they feel and all that stuff, because it's not that. It's not a person, it's a thing that you have to operate to grow successfully, but you also have to complete the goals and tasks. It's like working for AI, really. Like, to a certain extent. It's like working for AI in the idea that you're reduced to a number. There's no personality to it. The corporate structure only satisfies the need of a corporation to make money, really, and grow the enterprise, right? Now, I get that that's the goal, and you want to make good money, you want to have like a nice living. I don't understand the mentality of wanting to have full control over everything and run your shit because you're the man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand where that mentality comes from. The idea that you want to just make so much money that you have to lord over people and, push them to get you what you want. I think there's like a nice, easy medium to all of this. I think that there's a little sweet spot, where the corporation makes good money, can survive, can grow, and can expand, but at the same time can also take care of its employees. I think there's a couple companies that do that. I'm not going to name them because I'm not advertising for people, but I do know of one guy in Texas, I think it was. He ran, I think it's a hardware store. It's either a hardware store or like a packaging company, if I remember correctly. I read this a while ago. But this guy started making so much money that instead of giving himself, ungodly raises to the point where he gets to like $250,000 a year, this motherfucker I really appreciate, and I wish I could remember his name. But he basically took his business, grew it to a multi-million-dollar business, paid himself the same salary. I think he maxed himself out at like $100,000 a year, and then he pays everybody else, everyone, from the cashiers to the receiving staff to like the line cook, for if they have one, I don't know, but like, you know what I mean? They he pays them all $60,000 to $70,000 a year, US, dude, because this is in Texas. So like, you're telling me that you can't succeed and you can't give back the wealth? Like, a lot of the biggest names, brands, corporations that we know of, what their owners or heads of those companies do is to give back. They donate like $3 million to a different industry. Give back to your fucking workers, dude. Give back to the people that are helping you succeed at the thing that you built, right? We get that you put your hard-earned money and your time and your effort into making this what it is. But we also are trying to help provide you, I think, most of the time. There's a few workers that, will fuck off and whatever. But if you have goods, I think you have a better chance of getting a complete workforce, like a complete team, by paying them that kind of money and not taking, the greedy side of things and trying to give yourself more and more and more because it's your business and you built it. I get it. But one of the points of building business is that you can employ other people. You could change other people's lives. You can give them a space where they can grow and succeed, right? Financially. And I think that that's lost nowadays. And I think one of the biggest industries that's like on the opposite side of that's not doing a very good job of it is the weed industry. And I understand that the weed industry is doing this, is in the predicament of it's new, especially I'm talking about the weed industry in Canada. So I feel like there's a lot of instances in this industry where you find underpaid people doing jobs that if you were in a more accepted, regular, established industry, your pay would be a little bit more. A lot of people that I know that I've met in the weed industry, they're in it because they enjoy it and they saw an opportunity to do the job that they like to do in an industry that they'd really enjoy, especially for weed. Potheads are potheads, dude. We love it like kids love toys, So I think there's quite a few people that are not there just out of necessity. And I think that the managing companies that are buying up or that, own a good portion of the products that are distributed because they've bought up smaller companies, I think with that aggressive growth, there's also been a loss of who supports the growth of that business. A lot of head offices or companies or owners, I guess, seem to think that because it was their vision, because it's what they put together in their brain and then started working on, that they should reap 100% of the rewards. But the bottom line is, you don't get to that point without help from a lot of other people. And you don't stay at that point without establishing a good workforce, good benefits, and a nice solid place to work. So why wouldn't you give yourself the opportunity to pay people a respectable wage where they can stay in the industry and live? A livable wage. Because a lot of what's going on in the weed industry right now is people are very underpaid. There's a lot of only part-time work available, not a lot of full-time work. And what ends up happening is you're then not living, like, I don't know, here's a good example, okay? So not that these are exact numbers, but if you are to run, let's say, like a store in the mall, like a retail store in the mall, so like a Foot Locker or something like that. If you manage manage one of those shops, I believe, if I remember correctly, that you start at like $65,000 a year Canadian, which is like just barely enough for like you need double that to have a family, is what I'm saying, and do that job. Whereas in the weed industry, if you're managing a full retail pot shop, you're not making that money, even though the business on average probably brings in quite a bit more than what they're paying their employees. And I understand you have to make a profit, so you can't pay, you can't potentially pay everybody everything. But that's also kind of bullshit, because this guy in Texas is paying everybody, within 10 grand, the same amount of money or a similar amount of money for no matter what job you do. Like if you're a cashier, I'd imagine you'd make 60 grand a year. And then if you're a manager, 70, something like that, right? So why can't that work in a pot shop? Because you're not making no money. You're making actually quite a bit of money a month. It would be on par with how much a good drug dealer on the black market could bring in per month. Like, you're making a lot of fucking money, dude. So I've seen from my, experience that a lot of there's a few that don't, but a lot of heads of companies believe that because they built it, they deserve all of it. And I get that mentality, but at the same time, if you want to make your spot successful and have some longevity and be able to like succeed and stay for a long period of time in one industry and monopolize it, like a Walmart, let's say, I think it would better benefit you to pay more than what these guys are paying. Like, I feel like it's doable. I feel like the reason that it's not doable is partially because of greed at the top levels, but I also think it's doable because a lot of these companies try to expand in different spaces when you don't really need to. You know what I mean? Not right away anyway. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I don't understand why if you're in the workforce and you are a full-time employee, you can't make enough money to be able to do just that job. You need to have a second job nowadays because the economy is just shit. And our living wage is, like, in comparison to the way inflation is going and driving the price up of everything, you're gonna have to make minimum wage like $5 more every fucking year. You know what I mean? So I don't know, it's confusing. I feel like there's a way to do it. I feel like a lot of the reason that I wanted to get into the weed industry was potentially to buy a franchise when that's allowed, because it's not right now. But when that becomes a viable option for something, for like a business, I want to buy into one. And I feel like, based on how much I know a pot shop makes per month, you could make it so that everybody can survive, even your part-time workers, because normally they're kids with lower expenses. You can make it work and still turn a really good profit. I don't know where it became the goal to, as fast as possible, build up your profit so that you can buy into the next move for the business. Like, does that come with, like, ego? You just have to have a giant fucking ego to be like, no, I'm taking over the world, you know? And then with that, though, with the exercise of trying to grow quickly and spend a lot of the profit that you make early on, you make a lot more mistakes because you rush a lot of shit. And I think that a lot of how the weed industry works, because it's only like, 5 years old, I think, or 6 years old, it's still working out the kinks in terms of operations. You know, I think a lot of companies, because the people that run these companies aren't necessarily like from a business background, they're from like a black market weed growing background, you know. I think that they're still trying to apply the practices from the black market to, the retail market. And I think that what happens is they end up spending money on stupid shit, while at the same time not recognizing that what they're doing isn't necessarily progressing the business. Whereas if you started paying employees the equivalent to like a regular retail job, I think that you would find that your business would grow just as fast. Because, like, I know our shop in town has become basically the shop. We've taken all the customers. I mean, I know people go to other shops because that's, like, whatever's convenient. But for the most part, we're the highest earning shop in town. And we have two, and we've taken customers from our other store to our store. Like, the growth is crazy. And the fact that a lot of these companies keep the employee at a certain pay grade is a little ridiculous, because none of these people can sustain a living or even a full-time job for that. It should be looked at as like a part-time job. And I think there's enough money to be able to legitimize the business a little more and get better people in at the management levels. Because right now, you're kind of getting, I wouldn't say bottom of the barrel, but you're getting on average somebody that's not as good at the job because the pay is too low. You know what I mean? I think that I think that the weed industry could do a lot better job of putting money back into itself. It's kind of like the product itself. Like, Tyler and I have talked about this a lot, where if you're doing too much, if you're growing more than like 3 strains as a new company, like if you're growing 5 strains and your packaging's all flashy and shit like that, you're doing too much and you're spending money on nothing. You're going to go under really quickly. Where you could take the money that you would spend on marketing, because you're putting an excessive amount in if you're buying all these packages and like really flashy shit. You're putting a lot more money into that, whereas you could keep that in your pocket and give it to your employees and hire better employees. Because the other part of the problem with this industry right now is that it's an attractive industry to be in, right? Whereas if you go to the liquor store, the LCBO in Canada, or in Ontario, there's a lot of people that look a lot more professional. You know, I'm not saying you have to wear aprons and all that shit, but a lot of the times the contrast is you have a certain like collared shirt and casual dress look, like what do you call it? Not casual, yeah, casual dress look for the LCBO, and in the weed industry, you're wearing this. You know what I mean? And it's okay. And I think that if the weed industry were to up their wages, you would find more people that are willing to work in it. Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. I think there's too much of this. We need to get as much money in as we can and as I want. I think there's a lot of greed driving in the industry. The other part of that is I think that it's not just greed, it's also the government, because the government is heavily involved in the sale of marijuana. The taxation is huge on it, or taxes are huge on it. The fees for staying open and in business are massive. Like, they're crippling in most cases. But once you get to a point where you're actually turning a profit, I think as a business leader, it's time to sit down and review the pay structure of your company. Because you can still make really good money at the top with your, let's say, lowest level bud tender making enough to be able to live off of, you know? The industry is so full of cash, dude. The problem is that the government is taking 90% of it. And then they levy fees on you for certain things that, like, the government and Health Canada. Health Canada has a play in a lot of this too, because they were so worried about when weed came out that people were going to start having like real serious health issues, that Health Canada became essentially the overseer of the industry. So if they see practices that they don't think are good, they suspend a lot of stuff, and you have to spend some time. I've seen many companies having to spend some time in court cases and trying to, you know, defend whatever it is that they were doing, whether it's a new product or what category the product falls into, because that's the tough thing. Even right now with edibles, we've got to the point where we can get a better variety, but the numbers are still really low because Health Canada is still sitting on the fact that, well, if you take too much, you can have a problem. Sure, you can have a problem, but you can have a problem if you take too much of anything, weed-wise. Same with booze, man. The only difference is with weed, you're not necessarily going to end up in the hospital, whereas booze, you will, right? So I think that there's a benefit to the government trying to ease some of these regulations and qualifications to keep a business open, because the amount of hoops that you have to jump through just to stay regulated is insane, and the fees that you have to pay to be accredited and certified is astronomical. Starting up a shop is probably one of the hardest things to do right now, because you're spending so much goddamn money just trying to get the licensing to be able to have a shop, you know? And I get for liquor it's similar to that. You have to jump through a lot of hoops and red tape, I guess, for to get a liquor license. Maybe it's easy now, but people that I've known that have worked in restaurants have said that's one of the toughest things to do is maintain your liquor license. So I guess it's the same for weed, but the higher ups haven't figured out how to balance all this stuff really well yet. I think everybody's just going for massive growth, and I think maybe sometimes, even in a few cases, people are just like, I don't give a fuck about this part of it. I just want to make money, you know? Plus, that goes right along with how a pothead is. You know? You just get fixated on one thing, you're just like, fuck it, I'm doing that. I hope I make tons. So yeah, basically, I guess we're like living in the wild, wild west. That's what the weed industry is right now. It's the wild, wild west. Everybody's trying to find their footing. There's not a lot of extra money there because of the amount of money that it costs to grow and to expand and to stay in the industry and stay legitimized. But I think there's also a lot of things that, or I guess what I mean is, what I'm trying to say is that I think there's a lot of newer business owners that have all of a sudden got to a level that they've never really seen before, and they've had to start being corporate, and there's a bit of a learning curve, I guess, on how to go from, oh, I run these streets to I run this building. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like maybe that's part of the thing, but I also think that it's just greed. Like, I can remember when I was younger, if I ever tried to or if I ever thought about like dealing weed on the side, I never did. But I'm just saying, when I thought about it, I would think like, you know, I would just take all this cash. I'd have people that would run for me and I'd give them like free weed to do it. And then I would just pile the cash. Maybe that's the mentality of the higher ups in the weed industry right now. And then they're kind of like going against the government, or they're having to go against the government, not against, but like be in competition with the government, because the government is just putting their hands in every single fucking pot they can, thinking that, oh, this is a great way to do it. Have we fucking learned nothing from Denver? Like Colorado or Denver, Colorado seems to be doing pretty well, you know? I think we should have modeled it after that. I think that, yes, the government should benefit off of the sale of weed, but to the extent that they do, I don't think so, because I don't think that even the money that they are making right now, or being able, or have access to from the weed industry, I think that they're like squandering it anyway. But the government pretty much squanders everything, don't they? Like, ultimately, they don't. At least lately in Canada, it doesn't seem like they're pointing their resources, or they're picking the right resources and putting the right resources in the fucking proper direction. You know, feels like there's a little bit of a disconnect going on. And I guess that, like I said, is kind of like the weed industry. It's the fucking wild, wild west of shit. It feels like politically we're in this like, we're in this sort of we're in this spot where we're gonna take a turn somewhere. Something's got to change, and then the weed industry is also in that spot, and I think that this is the point where there has to be some kind of major change, because the concept of the corporation and the idea of it being this thing that you can use as a chess piece personally to attain great wealth is being a bit abused. You know, I get it. I understand that if I were to put a lot of time and money, like if this podcast ever took off and I started making a lot of money, I get it. I would look at that as like, I did that. Fuck right. I did all of that. That's mine, you know? But then I think, because I know how much it takes to do one of these, that I would need staff. And I don't want shitty staff. I don't want people that are just like, okay, I'm here to do whatever for like the next 4 hours. I want to pay somebody really well to get their complete capabilities on an everyday basis, right? So I'm going to make sure that whatever I'm making at that point, I take, let's say, depends on how much it is. Like if I could make 150 grand a year, and that was like 50% of my income, I'd be like, okay, I'll take the 150 grand a year, and I'll use the rest to pay my employees really well, and then I'll use a smaller portion to invest into the business. Because if I'm paying employees really well, it's a job they want to go to, right? And then I also have more access because guys that really like their really like their job and are really invested in what they do, they're expensive, man, and they should be because that's what they're going to do for you, right? I would want that level working for me because I put a lot of fucking time and effort into this and I know what it takes, but I also know that to grow to the point where everyone is successful, there has to be, I think there has to be some kind of loyalty to your employees. I think that instead of just showing like all this gimmicky, let's have a pizza party shit, like, and let's throw a party for this shit as like a reward for doing well, I think that as a company, you're better off to just take some of those profits and spread it back to your workers, and do it every fucking year. And I think that companies that do that or would do that are going to find that, or do find that there's like a much more steady profit growth annually. Because the people that are getting paid are getting compensated for the work that they're doing. It's not just you, and I get you have investors and things like that, but at the same time, I feel like that can all be managed if you don't get greedy people around you. And I think that's what I would do. I think if I had to hire a staff, because I know right now, if I had, for everything I need to do, I think I would have to hire like 4 people. Okay? Those 4 people would be very well paid because I need them to be as obsessed with this as I am, right? And I think a big part of that is money. I mean, we're all motivated by money. The corporations aren't the only ones that are greedy as shit. Like, our whole society has turned to greedy as shit. Like, look at all of social media, Instagram, whatever. It doesn't matter. All, like, Twitter, everything, right? Everybody is trying to sell this image of being this fucking quadrillionaire, and having this big party lifestyle and having a good time and all this shit. Like, fuck that shit. You can still do that without being a greedy little bastard. You know what I'm saying? You could still do that and be a nice person and be an even, like, and be a, I don't know, classy individual, I guess. All right. I have strong thoughts about this because I really love the weed industry. I love everything about it because I love weed, right? And it is a great place to be. But to be honest, if you're working in the weed industry right now, you better just be working there for fun because you're not making millions of dollars. Maybe if you're at the top, you're making something good. But as like a retail worker or whatever, I feel like pay and a lot more things should be reviewed and changed and made better within the weed industry. I think that overall corporations should fucking at least, not corporations, but the investors or the whoever the head of the corporation is or the board. I think that we all should try to find a way to give back to the people that are supporting us, because I think a lot of people look at these like company donations of like $300 million to whatever, like World Wildlife Fund or some shit. And they go like, okay, but if you could donate that to them, why can't you put it back in to the company and give it to us too? Like, help us out too. Cause the people that are at the basement level or the bottom level of your business are the ones that are struggling. Like, they need to be brought up. Why wouldn't, if you're the head of a corporation, okay, and you've started this business from the ground up, I get a part of it is that like you want to be successful and show you're successful and that's part of your worth and all that shit. But is it not also a way for you to be like, I also support all these people and this is how I'm going to do it? And by doing that, like, you can change a lot of people's lives, and still have exponential growth that'll make you millions or billions. I just think it's too much greed, dude. Everybody's fucking greedy. And you see, like I said, you see it on a personal level on Instagram and all that shit. Nobody wants to work for anything anymore. They just want to, you know, hop on a fucking boat and take videos of them floating around the ocean or doing whatever in Ibiza, you know? It's just weird. I'm not saying that you can't have that lifestyle. I'm just saying that I think it takes a certain level of greed to try and achieve something like that. I would love that shit, but I don't really care, you know? I just want to have a nice life where I can afford the things that I want, not have to worry about my bills, buying a house, paying the car note, whatever the deal is. I just want to be able to support my family and enjoy things without having to worry about how am I going to pay this credit card bill, how am I going to pay this phone bill, whatever the deal is. So making like 150 grand a year at this point, I feel like that would be pretty good. I could go on trips. I could, have nice cars. I could have a decent sized house. I could maybe have a cottage. Yeah. I feel like you could do those things on that salary, even though even now that salary is getting to be, harder and harder to live on. But that's with like, a family. And most people are buying houses that are way out of their fucking price range, or they max out their loan because they want the biggest shit. You don't need the biggest shit, dude. You just have to have some nice stuff. You know what I mean? You can make a smaller, like that. I don't know. I guess you just people associate that with their identity. To me, like I've lived in a big house. I've lived in nice houses, and to be honest, big or small, you can make the right house the right spot for you. So I think that we gotta fucking relax on the whole like greed situation. I think we should back off a bit and try to give back. Just like El Blunto is giving back to me right now. I'm about to smoke this Centrado. It's a 0.7 blunt. What's the lineage? Does it say? I don't think so. Terpenes, 1.98%. And yeah, I don't see what the strain is. Oh, there's some really small print that I can't read at all. The world finest. Well, thanks for not telling me what's in there. All right, the El Blunto Centrado. That's what we're going to try right now. It's a blunt. It's a 0.7. It's got comes with a nice glass filter. It's tasty. I've smoked quite a few of these. If you haven't tried them before, you should, especially if you like cigars. These are really nice. The paper that they use is, you ever had a Century Sam? It's like a little bit better than that, but same kind of style. So you get this nice cigar-like flavor. And this one, the Centrado, like I said, I'm pretty sure is an indica. But again, it doesn't tell me. I know it's more relaxing. It's like a light indica. It goes well with scotch. It goes really well with scotch. The flavor's kind of hashy. It's got more of that like bold, deep cigar style taste. So like when you take a puff, it's like it really fills your mouth. And it's like you're eating a slice of smoke. It's got an earthy flavor. It smells like burning. I don't know why I just did that. It doesn't really, the weed smells, what does it smell like? It doesn't really smell that skunky. No, it's more sweet. It's more of a sweet flavor. But it's mostly body buzz, because like I said, I'm pretty sure it's an indica. At least a hybrid leaning indica for sure. It's not going to make you fall asleep. It's just going to give you that nice relaxing slouch at the end of the day. Like if you had this with a whiskey, you just sit in your mahogany wingback chair, Schwarzenegger it. Yeah, this is the good cigar. This is delicious. I like it. Yeah, where do you get these? How do I get them? you know, it's a good. I like this one at nighttime. I don't know why. I like it in the evening. After dinner, maybe. When the sun's setting. When you can sit out on your porch. Smoke this guy. My only issue with it is that it burns a little too quickly. So you're done it pretty fast. I like it. I would like it to take a little bit longer. I feel like this should be like a 15-minute smoke, but it's so not a 15-minute smoke. It lasts probably about the same amount of time as a cigarette. Maybe 10. Maybe. Depends. Well, you can find out on here. Watch how long it takes me to smoke this. And then you can leave a comment telling me how fucking whacked I am. But yeah, it's nice and relaxing. You know what I don't really like? I don't really like blunts in the day. I just realized that. In the afternoon at a cottage, yes. But blunts are generally pretty heavy. This one's not that heavy. It's relaxing, but you don't feel like you're being like pushed or weighted down. And I've had these for a while. They're not crisp, but they're not quite as fresh as the last couple sessions when I was talking about the other weed. These ones are a little older than that, and they kept okay, but they're starting to get a little crisp. Especially the blunt wraps. That's the problem with the blunt wraps. They get a little crisp too. But overall, it's not harsh. Still. It's a good hit. Makes me feel excellent. Watch this Centrado be a fucking sativa. But I always say these El Bluntos, Chronics, what is it? Chronic Turpin Diamond Infused Blunt, I think is what it is. It's a 3-grammer. That one hand rolled. That's the only one, in my opinion, that beats these. These ones are really awesome. If these were, and it's only because of the fact that the other one is actually wrapped like a cigar. It looks like you got a Cuban cigar in your hand. This one has the glass tip, which I really like, but it's not wrapped like a cigar, so you know you're smoking a blunt. Yeah, but it's good. These ones are really good. El Blunto, I buy them all the time. They also have a 2-gram, I think, diamond infused one. That one's delicious. Diamonds can get a little harsh if you let them sit, so I generally buy 2 of those and I'll smoke them within 2 weeks. These guys I've had for probably about a month, and they're pretty good. But yeah, if you like laid back, motor-mouthed, silly kind of high, this is a little energizing. Maybe it is a sativa. Fuck. I wish it said. That would be helpful. Most packages tell you what the fuck you're smoking. These guys are just like, hey, here's a blunt. Smoke it. You will enjoy. And they aren't wrong. This one is not infused. You can get all Bluntos that are infused, though. Yeah, it's good. It's a nice laid-back smoke. Gives you a little chatty vibe, especially if you're me, apparently. And you keep repeating things and saying same things over and over again. Yeah, they're good. You should pick them up. If you get the chance. Or just roll yourself a blunt, smoke a blunt, because blunts are delicious. I love blunts. What I don't love is how this is like the worst segue ever. What I don't like is how the corporation just dictates and takes over the function of the company, I feel like people can find an even medium, the same kind of medium and comfort that this blunt brings to me. I feel like people can find that in the workforce, and I think it's the responsibility of the people that operate the corporation to maintain livable wages, healthy growth, and a support system for their staff in order to maintain the growth of their business. I think that you would find a lot more people would be a lot more invested in the job that they do if you provided them with maybe a little bit better than good compensation, especially if you're in an industry where you can, you know? I think that it's the corporation's responsibility to also maintain employee growth in all those aspects with the growth of the company. So instead of waiting for minimum wages to change them yourself. Just pay a little more, you know? People are taking time away from their people to do something for you, you know? And greed, I don't think should play a factor in the people that are involved in your like the people that are directly affecting the growth of your company. I think that greed should play a role in your ability to compete with the other people in your industry. I think that would be the better move for the cannabis industry, to the direction for them to go in. Yeah. Because it is an industry that can have a lot of money. And I think the government needs to add up. The government needs to ease up. And the heads of the companies in the weed industry, I think they need to wise up and start putting some more money back into their company on a staff level. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's the key to success. Yeah. And I think those are my thoughts for Off the Stem. Oh my God. And those are my thoughts off the stem for this week. Hope you come back next week with me, Justin Barone, your friendly neighborhood pothead, on Thoughts Off the Stem, on Anchor, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, YouTube, Podchaser, Podbean, Good Pods, Pandora, anywhere you get a podcast. And check out tots420.com, and you'll find all the links to all the places where you can listen to it or watch it. Sometimes it's fun to watch. But I hope you enjoyed this sesh. I hope you come back and we get to sesh again. Until next time, keep your lids low, baby.
Thoughts off the stem, friend, a neighborhood party.
Right on.